So about a year and a half ago, unfortunately, I decided to watch Highschool of the Dead. I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot to say about this anime. Ignoring what the title of the video says, this anime is far from the worst anime I've seen. In fact, I even found some fun out of it. So let me get into why I have so many conflicting thoughts about this. In terms of the story, this anime has an extremely self-explanatory plot. It is literally the most average zombie storyline you would find in any other piece of media, just this time it's anime. The setting's in some generic high school and then suddenly a zombie apocalypse happens, people start panicking, students are dying left and right, and everything you would expect in the typical zombie apocalypse. By the end of episode 1, our main characters all meet, and this is the group that we follow for the remainder of the season. I genuinely don't think I need to go through the rest of the story for a couple of reasons. First off, I don't remember it. In all seriousness, there isn't an overarching main goal, and I'd have to sit here for a while to remember every single plot point that happens in the story, which I cannot stress how much I really don't want to do that. The second thing, it's not important. Seriously, I'm pretty sure in damn near every zombie movie or show or game, the group just tries to survive and niggas die. I'm sure there's many great character moments or whatever, but it's mostly the same thing for the majority of zombie media. And finally, it's not good. Like, all the good things I have to say about this anime are not about the story. Like, just take my word for it. Trust me, the best thing about this anime is not the story. It does not matter. Mediocre story aside, let's talk about our main group of characters. They are the most unremarkable group of niggas in a storyline that I have seen. Like, holy shit, man. Like, I can boil down all of these characters down to just their personality trait, and you can probably have a very good understanding of how these characters work and their dynamic. The main character, Komuro, is about as interesting as a video game NPC. Not even the ones that give you dialogue, like the ones in the background with no fucking lines. His role exists just to be a main character and nothing else. I can boil down the rest of the cast to fucking words. Rei, the love interest, Takagi, the tsundere, Kota, the school shooter, Taiko, the kudere, and Shizuka, breast. I swear that I could try and give more information, but listen, man, like I said, I'm pretty sure that you already have a good idea of how these characters are just from me saying that, so I'm just gonna move on. Now, for such a bland cast of characters, the character dynamics can range from being absolutely dismal to some of the funniest dialogue in an anime that I've seen. Starting with Komuro, I have a theory that he was probably written in last minute despite being the main character, because he literally has no personality, nothing to distinguish him, nothing. He purely exists to be the main character, look cool, and nothing else. I generally hate the way they try and give him these one-liners and character moments like I give a fuck, but they just end up being some of the corniest lines I've ever heard in my entire life. And by the virtuous grace of Komuro being the main character, they give him not one, but two, count them, two love interests in the series. Rei and Saiko are Komuro's love interests throughout the show. Now, they are both very poorly written romance arcs. However, one is clearly better than the other, and I'm gonna get into why in a bit. But let me start with Rei. We only get a small bit of context from the show, but from what I remember, they had a falling out because she had to repeat a year, and she started dating this boy Hisashi instead. Now, Hisashi doesn't matter in the fucking slightest because he ends up dying within the first episode. But just know that this man that we don't care about in the slightest, and is basically a non-character for the entirety of the show, is a major driving force of their relationship, and I'm being so serious. The biggest conflict of their dynamic is her dealing with the loss of her dead boyfriend at the time, Hisashi, and how her and Komuro have trouble communicating with each other. Now, had this been written by literally anyone else, you could have given this script to a monkey and it would have been a fire character arc. Unfortunately, there are so many fucking reasons as to why this doesn't work. The main reason being that Rei also has the personality of stale bread. Let's go! Like, bro, she is just as boring as Komuro, and she exists to purely be a love interest. Like, if you backseat her role as the love interest, which does happen during the show at some point, it feels like she doesn't even exist. And this is why this dynamic was doomed for failure, because she feels like a character puppeteered to fit with whatever the romance dynamic needs to be at the time, which is also why Rei's personality is not consistent. She flip-flops between wanting Komuro and missing Hisashi randomly. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. This is a very short time after his death, and she damn near immediately gravitates towards Komuro. Like, it doesn't make sense. But when the story wants to randomly add tension between the two, then all of a sudden she misses Hisashi and she's pissed off that he's not him. Which, okay man. Shit just either goes from 0 to 100 real fucking quick. And while I was watching it, it just pissed me off, man. Now, Psycho, on the other hand, listen, I am not a shipper, because I have friends and family that love me. But seeing this dynamic made me tweak slightly, and I really questioned Komura's character. Let me get into why though. Let's use all the points I made for Rei. Psycho actually has a personality. Mind you, it's generic as fuck, but it's still a personality. Like I mentioned earlier, she is the Kudere archetype, and if you watch enough anime, you know exactly what that is. She's also in the Kendo club, so she's well versed in using a sword and can hold her own in a fight. So already, without being a love interest, she is a useful member of the group. Because of the way the Kudere trope works, by default she is bound to start off being somewhat cold and stoic, and then slowly open up and be more friendly over time. That's a given. So she already has a more interesting personality than Rei by default, just by existing. Not just that, her personality is consistent. Even removing her role as a love interest, she is still her own character and does not revolve entirely around Komuro. In terms of their dynamic, while there isn't much romantic tension from the start, they do a below average job of building it up, at least more than him and Rei. They exchange lines of dialogue relating to what's going on around them and their thoughts about it. At some point, they allude to her having feelings for him, and throughout the show, they start to have like banter and say a line that I'm 100% sure is an innuendo, which leads to them having a moment in a shrine where they get separated from the group, and I'm gonna assume that he busts her down. I actually don't know. They cut away to the next scene after, so I might just be talking. So now that I told you all of that, tell me why the fuck it would be a wise idea for Komuro to still go after Rei. Seriously, bro, like if you really want to make this work so bad, then make her a fucking character instead of a worthless blank slate. Like, I don't think you understand just how much this irritated me while watching, and I'm not even a fucking shipper. I'm just a realist. For the rest of our characters, I don't have much to say, because I don't find them nearly as annoying as the love triangle between those three. I mentioned Kota earlier, and he is the otaku, fat loser in the group. Now that this whole zombie apocalypse is going on, he at times lets his murderous tendencies seep out, and yes, it's as lame as it sounds. Also, I forgot to mention that he's really obsessed with guns and is surprisingly good at using them. He seems to have feelings for Takagi, the tsundere, and the resident bitch in the group. She is an asshole and is mean to pretty much everyone. And I won't hold you, her lines are some of the funniest shit in this entire anime. Like, she will randomly just violate anybody, and it's mad entertaining. At first, halfway through the series, we go to her estate and then we meet her rich ass parents, and they try to give her character development, which again I don't give a fuck about because she's at her most entertaining when she's just being mean to everyone. Our final character, Shizuka, the absolutely fine ass ditzy school nurse. She exists for no other reason than breasts. So every time you see her, it is nothing but fan service, and I'm being so serious. So from everything I've said so far, you can probably guess that the story and the characters are not this anime specialty. I'm sure you could have guessed that the thing that Highschool of the Dead excels at is the fan service. This anime probably has some of the most egregious fan service of any anime I have seen so far. Episode 6 alone is so crazy that it got me a whole strike on my fucking channel, and I'm being dead ass. The majority of the fan service comes from Shizuka just existing and the ludicrous amount of panty shots. Like, I'm talking an insane amount. Not that I'm complaining, on the contrary, I think it's the only thing that keeps me entertained throughout this whole show. I'd argue that the fan service distracts you from the mediocre story and bland characters. My issue is when they try to treat this anime more seriously than what it actually is. They dial back on the fan service. Not completely, but enough to make the remaining 6 episodes feel like a fucking drag. And if you go back to my reactions, you can see the demeanor shift from the first 2 videos to the last 2 in the series. And that's probably the most annoying thing about this anime, because I really did not care about the story. So overall, what did I think? Honestly, I would never recommend it for multiple reasons, but to be honest, there's really nothing unique about this anime. The only time I would tell you to watch this is if you were a serious, chronic freak. Otherwise, you're much better off watching something else, man. I'm out. Peace.